Hello and welcome to the South Bay Workforce Investment Board. My name is Maria Frias and I work under the Contracts Department, where we are tasked to implement and follow the policy and procedures that govern the operation of the statewide eligible training provider list in California. They address the activities of the governor, local workforce development boards, their America's Job Center of California locations, and those training providers who wish to offer services to adults, dislocated workers, and out-of-school youth whose training is funded by the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. In this presentation, I will introduce you to the Contracts Department team, describe the different types of training providers, explain how to access and give you guidance through the online application, go over the desk review, describe the cost analysis, give you a contract overview, and finally go over how we track and monitor performance measures. The Contracts Department team is made up of a manager who is also the South Bay Workforce Investment Board's ETPL coordinator. Her team is made up of an administrative support staff member and 3 contract analysts. The South Bay Workforce Investment Board places training providers within 3 categories. Private for-profit organizations fall under the Regional Training Provider Directory, private nonprofit and community-based organizations under the Community Training Provider Directory, and public institutions and higher education such as colleges and university under Public Training Provider Directory. The online application can be accessed either by going to www.svwib.org under iTrain or directly under wioa.i-train.org. Once on the website, click on Application. Click on Our School Would Like to Be Listed on iTrain, and then select the link according to your organization type. When you click on the appropriate link, you will be able to see the application on the website, and the system will allow you to type in information, but will not allow those updates to be saved at the end. This is why it is important to first download the application and save it onto your own drive before filling out. To download it, click on the image as illustrated here. If you hover over the image, it indicates that it is a download feature. You can either open it right away through your own system's default Adobe Acrobat Reader or save it. This is what the cover page looks like. On the following page here in Step 1, it basically states that after completing the application and attaching all required documents, it gives you the mailing or email address to send. In Step 2, it states that an evaluation, which we refer to as the desk review of the application, will be conducted by a contract analyst who will then submit a recommendation to South Bay WIB or the board designee to pursue if the training provider meets all the required criteria for WIOA, ETPL, and South Bay WIB, or decline if not all criteria is met. Once the programs are listed in the systems, on this top section, it just basically tells you that you may view listed programs on iTrain or via the ETPL, which is located within CalJobs under Education Services. Below you will see our application guidelines. We ask that the application be typed and submitted in its original format and in sequence, as most of the pages become part of the draft agreement. Therefore, do not renumber, redesign, or reformat the forms. If mailing the application, we ask that it not be bound. However, we do accept it in 3-ring binders or binder clips. If you follow all the guidelines, the standard evaluation process takes approximately 30 calendar days from receipt of the application. Emphasis is placed on the standard being based on accurate completion of the application and submission of all required documentation. For more detailed information regarding the state's ETPL policy, you can click on the link below for more information. Here is the iTrain eligibility. Training provider must meet all criteria for ETPL, including approval by the California Department of Education, the Chancellor's Office of the California Community Colleges, or the Western Association for Schools and Colleges. All proposed programs must be commercially available. They must meet the minimum and average training-related wages at placement. They must meet demand occupation criteria. Price per participant and/or price per training hour cannot exceed the market average by more than 15% per individual program compared to other similar approved programs. Training provider must provide a link to the catalog and/or schedule of classes. Must submit required general and automobile insurance certificates with the required endorsements and provide proof of workers' compensation. If auto liability insurance is not required, you may submit an auto waiver letter using this wording. The letter must be in company letterhead, which needs to be signed and dated. Now I will go over all the fillable forms in this application. The application, training provider information form, the Exhibit A, which is a program outline, Exhibit B for competencies, the iTrain program description form, Exhibit E, which is a statement of business ownership for training provider, the authorized signature form. The only page that will not be included in the contract is the iTrain program description form here in bold font. We ask that all forms be typed because they become a legal document. This is what the PTPD application training provider information form looks like. Here is the top section for a closer look. We also refer to this page as a bidder information sheet in the contract. I will not go over this page entirely, but will point out some important things that will help the process go much faster. The legal name goes here. Do know that we reference your organization's name as listed on the general liability insurance, so please cross-reference this information for faster processing. If the main address is a training site as well, please include it again under the training site address to be clear. If there is more than one training site, add them below that. Normally, the person listed here under personnel would be the person South Bay Web staff is expected to work with during the contract amendment or renewal process. Therefore, if this person changes, it is important to let us know. Your federal tax ID and state ID numbers are required. Check the different services provided by your agency here. On this form, information previously typed will auto-populate here. This form needs a date and signature. Before we review the Exhibit A, which is a program's outline, let's talk about a program versus a course. A program results in a certificate of completion. A program may be comprised of several courses. For example, in order to complete a fitness and nutrition trainer's program, one must take the following 4 courses. On the Exhibit A, please list the programs and not the courses, as we do not approve or list courses. This is what the Exhibit A looks like. There are 3 slots for 3 different programs. Let's take a closer look at Exhibit A. Select whether the program is offered in the classroom, online, or via distance learning. If you offer this program both online and in the classroom, for example, and you wish to list both programs, we need each one listed separately. Next, we need the title of the training here. Total program hours and weeks go here. If the program is eligible for a Pell Grant, please indicate so by checking this box. In order to indicate the program's total price, we need to fill in that information in the cost breakdown section to sum up here. And please take into consideration that it is important that you list this correctly, as we will also require a separate cost breakdown in company letterhead that itemizes any other costs with the exception of tuition and registration fees. However, I will explain this further in the following slide. The minimum and training related wages go here. You can indicate up to 2 target industry sectors. If you don't find the closest match, you may type that information. The target occupation goes here. You may indicate what your enrollment schedule is here. List here any prerequisites and how they are measured. And finally, list the program's training site down here. Let's discuss the cost breakdown on Exhibit A versus the separate itemized cost breakdown we require on company letterhead. Here is a simple illustration of the cost breakdown on Exhibit A. For a computer technician program, for example, there are tuition, registration, and book fees as shown here. The cost breakdown on company letterhead, as illustrated here, will list the tuition and registration fees as is. Only these 2 categories do not require to be broken down further on the letter. However, any other fees would need to be listed in more detail. If you refer to the books, because the program requires 3 different books, they would be listed on the letter as reflected here. Any other costs such as supplies, materials, uniforms, exams, etc. would need to be listed in the same manner. As mentioned earlier, we will need minimum and average wages for training-related occupations listed on Exhibit A. This information may be retrieved via ONET Online. The website is provided here. Simply type the occupation here. In this example, we will use fitness trainer. A list of occupations will appear. Select the most appropriate. In this example, I will select the first choice. On the next page, scroll to the very bottom and select Local Salary Information. Select California and click Go. Annual wages will appear. California wages are listed in red. To view hourly wages instead, click on the View Hourly Wages link. Here you will find the minimum and average wages that you may use on Exhibit A. This is Exhibit B for competencies. The information typed previously on Exhibit A, such as the training title, training provider name, program hours and weeks, will auto-populate on the top section of this form as illustrated here. However, we need the competencies, measurement, and minimum passing scores listed below. Here is an example of what it might look like for a barbering program. We do not allow this form to be turned in blank or with only 1 or 2 competencies listed. Of course, we keep in mind that this may be different depending on the program, but please make sure it encompasses everything the student will learn. If the list is longer than the fields allowed on this page, feel free to only list the main points of the curriculum. Here is the Exhibit E. Again, information typed previously will reflect on this page. However, you will still need to type in the county, number of employees, alternate phone number, and a signature is needed here. This is the iTrain program description form. If you are including the catalog to reference the program description, check this box here. If not, you can type that information below. Information previously typed on Exhibit A will auto-populate here as well. There are 3 slots for 3 different programs. We need you to provide the program description here. This information will reflect both on iTrain and the ETPL systems. You can provide direct links to each program here. And last but not least, if you want to submit more than 3 programs, you may get additional forms by clicking here on Add Program. This will give you a new set of Exhibit A, Exhibit B, and the program description form. And finally, this is the authorized signature form. Normally, the person listed on the top contract section is the person who is signing the application forms. But in case your organization wants this person to be someone else, we did not have this field auto-populate to give you the freedom to designate other individuals that are legally able to bind agreements. In this section, you may list up to 2 individuals to sign the contract just in case one is not present, the other person may sign as well. Next, we need to know who is authorized for invoices, attendance records, and competency verifications. This form requires all signatures if the individuals are different. However, if the individual is the same for all sections, only one signature is required. Now let's talk about what happens when the application is sent to South Bay Workforce Investment Board. Once the application is received, it is logged into our system, submitted to the contract manager, who then assigns it to an analyst. Once the analyst receives the application, he or she has 30 days to respond to the application. A cost analysis is conducted for all new programs and for all existing programs whenever there is a program price and/or hour change. The program's price and hours are compared to other similar approved programs. We review that the program's price and/or training hours do not exceed the market average by more than 15%. What happens if a program's price is too high? The highest price that may be approved is determined by the analyst, and a program cost negotiation is submitted to the training provider. It is then up to the training provider to accept it or not. If the training provider accepts, we would need the revised Exhibit A. If all forms are submitted and cost analysis meets the criteria, a recommendation for approval is submitted to the board designee. If the application is approved by the board, a contract is drafted and sent to the training provider for signatures. Please note that all contracts are given a 2-year term. This is what is included with the contract. The contract itself, Exhibits A, B, C, D, E, the vendor authorized signature page, the itemized cost listing, the bidder information sheet, which is a training provider information form, the general liability insurance, auto insurance or auto waiver letter, and proof of workers' compensation. As illustrated here, most of the application documents are included here, which is why we require them to be typed as they become legal documents. This is what the contract signature page looks like, and this is the authorized signature form submitted to us by you with the application. The person we list here to sign the contract will be the individual listed on the authorized signature form that is listed here. Therefore, if this person changes, we need advance notice, otherwise this might cause a delay in executing an agreement. Please note that we always require 2 signature pages, as one original is sent back to you for your records and another is kept here for our files. Our contracts are executed every Wednesday, therefore we must receive all items by noon on Tuesday to execute the contract that week. Here are the final steps. Once the contract is executed, an original is mailed to the training provider and the other original is kept here at South Bay WIB. A copy is also given to the analyst and kept in the training provider's file. And finally, the training provider along with the programs are listed on iTrain, the ETPL, and South Bay WIB's master directory. And finally, we will be discussing performance measures. All training providers that are listed on iTrain are subject to performance evaluations. The state has different ETPL performance measures. All programs are electronically evaluated by South Bay WIB on a quarterly basis. Programs with 4 or more completions will be evaluated and performance will be verified. Each program's performance is measured by using an entered employment rate calculation. This is simply by calculating the total number of placements by the total number of completions for each program. Programs with an entered employment rate of 70% or better require no action. Here we will discuss a probation versus a hold status due to programs not meeting the 70% entered employment rate. Programs with an entered employment rate between 50 and 69% are placed on probation status. Probation status means the program is still eligible to receive referrals. Most of the time, this changes as placement information is reported down the line. Programs with entered employment rates of less than 50% will be placed on a hold status. A hold status means the program is not eligible to receive new referrals until the entered employment rate rises to meet minimum standards. However, the training provider will continue to hold classes for those already enrolled. Our probation hold process is as follows. When it is determined that a program meets the probation or hold status, a letter is mailed to the training provider. The training provider has 10 days to acknowledge the letter. Training provider has 30 days to review the data and respond to the letter. Probation and/or hold statuses are reevaluated on a quarterly basis. This concludes the presentation. Thanks for listening.